Okay, now this is when it was going on during the time of the kings. Okay, some were on, some were off, some were leading them right, some were leading them wrong, you know what I mean, depending on which king was where. Okay, they'd go back and forth. They'd have bad ones and a good one would come, and they'd have bad ones, a good one would come. Some people would celebrate things and do things the way they were supposed to, some of them wouldn't. Okay, so let's look at here in 23, because this is building up to another Pesach here. It says, Melakim Bet, chapter 23, verse 1. It said, and the sovereign sent, and they gathered all the elders of Yehudah and Jerusalem to him. And the sovereign went up to the house of Yahuwah with all the men of Yehudah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the Kohim and the Nibim, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant, which had been found in the house of Yahuwah. And the sovereign stood by the column and made a covenant before Yahuwah to follow Yahuwah and to guard his commands and his witness and his laws with all his heart and with all his being, and to establish the words of his covenant that were written in the book. And all the people stood to the covenant. Okay? So this sovereign here, he made a covenant to Yahuwah, okay? And the people were there, okay? And it says the people stood to the covenant. And the sovereign commanded Hilkiyahu, the Kohen Gadol, and the Kohanim of the second order, and the doorkeepers, to bring out the hekel of Yahuwah, and all the objects that were made for Baal, and for Asherah, and for the host of the Shemaim. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the field of the Kidron, and took their ashes to Bethel. So what's going on here? He's beginning to clean up house, okay? And it says now we are the hekel. He dwells in us, okay? We are his dwelling place now, okay? So they were physically cleaning up the house here, but also it speaks to us as we're just physically cleaning up the house. Remove the things, okay? Remove those things that are not of Yahuwah. Get them away from us, okay? Verse 5. And he put down the black-robed priests, whom the sovereigns of Yehudah had appointed him to burn incense on the high places in the cities of Yehudah and in the places all around Jerusalem. And those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and the constellations, and all to the host of the Shemaim. Okay? So how was he able to do this? Because he began to read the Word. Okay? And he began to read the Word, and he says, wow, these black-robed priests that the kings of Yehudah put in place. Okay? He says, well, where did that say that in here about black robe? Where did that say that in the Word? No. You guys, I'm getting rid of you guys. Okay? Getting rid of them. Okay? Get out of here. Okay? That's not in the Word. Okay? So, in order for him to do that, he had to read the Word. Okay? And as he began to read the Word, he began to see what was supposed to happen and not supposed to happen. Okay? The same thing with Pesach for us. Okay? As how we keep it. Okay? We began to read the Word. Okay? We began to read the Word and continue to read the Word and continue to bring understanding. Last year, it was real quick and we did the best we could. Okay, but this year, he's expected way more of us. Okay? He's expected more of us, and we're going to approach it differently. Even the way we do everything is going to be completely different than we did before. Okay? Verse 6, and he brought out the Asherah from the house of Yahuwah and from the Wadi Kidron outside Jerusalem, and burnt it at the Wadi Kidron, and ground it to ashes, and threw its ashes on the graves of the sons of the people. And he broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes that were in the house of Yahuwah. Okay? So this is a mixture here. Okay? You should be getting rid of all that. Where the women wove tapestries for the Asherah. And he brought all the Kohim from the cities of Yehudah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Gibeah to Beersheba, and broke down the high places at the gates, which were at the entrance of the gate of Yahushua, the governor of the city, which were to the left of the city gate. However, the priests of the high places did not come to the altar of Yahuwah in Jerusalem, but ate their unleavened bread among their brothers. And he defiled Tophia, which is the valley of Ben Hinnom, so no one could make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Molech. And he did away with the horses, and the sovereigns of Yehudah had given to the sun at the entrance of the house of Yahuwah. by the room of Nathan Melech, the eunuch, that were in the court, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. So anything that was dedicated to the sun, anything that had anything to do with any kind of pagan deities at all, okay, any kind of mixture with the world, he was getting rid of all of this, okay. And the altars that were on the roof of the upper room of Ahaz, which the sovereigns of Yehudah had made, and the altars which Menashe had made in the two courtyards of the house of Yahuwah, the sovereign broke down and rushed there and threw their dust into the Wadi Kidron. And the sovereign defiled the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand, the mountain of destruction which Shlomo, sovereign of Israel, had built, the Asherah for the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom the abomination of the children of Ammon. And he broke into pieces the pillars and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with the bones of men. And also the altar that was in Bethel, and the high places which Jeroboam the son of Nebat made, by which he made Yisrael sin. Both the altar and the high place he broke down, and he burnt the high place and ground it to dust, and he burnt the Asherah. And Yoshiyahu turned and saw the tombs that were there on the mountain, and he said, and took bones out of the tombs, and he burned them on the altar, and defiled it according to the word of Yahuwah, which the man of Elohim proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. And he said, what tombstone is this that I see? And the man of the city said to him, it is the tomb of the man of Elohim, who came to Yehudah and proclaimed these matters which you have done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, let him alone, let no one move his bones. So they left his bones alone, and the bones of the Nabai who were in Shamarim. Okay. So it says, and Yoshiyahu took away the houses of the high places and all that were in the city of Shamaron, and the sovereigns of Israel had made to provoke, and he did them according to the deeds that he had did in Bethel. Okay. So he was cleaning house. Verse 21, and the sovereign commanded all the people, saying, prepare the Pesach to Yahuwah your Elohim, as it is written in the book of the covenant. Okay, what happened before he said that? All these things had to be cleaned out, okay? Because this was serious business, okay? It's not just, let's just do it, because it's something that's an excuse to get together, okay? Hey, just invite anybody and everybody, okay? It says it in the word, it says no stranger, okay? So someone who doesn't know Yahuwah, it's not a time to bring them. Okay? It's not. It's not a time to bring somebody who maybe has heard of Yahuwah but is still saying L-O-R-D and all these things. It said this is to be set apart. That's not the time for that. Okay? There's all these other days and all these other times that you can minister to them, and we have services here where they can come, but during that time it is not. It's only for his set apart ones. Okay? To the fact that is we won't be on stream. Okay? We won't be recording. We won't be on stream because it's just for the house. It's private. Okay, so there won't be no CDs, DVDs. There won't be no stream on that. Okay, because that is a set apart time. Okay, he's called us to be set apart. Okay, and the best of our ability, we're going to try to honor that. Okay, so before this happened, it said he took care of all this business, and it says, verse 23. But in the 18th year, sovereign Yoshiyahu, this Pesach was prepared before Yahuwah in Jerusalem. And it goes on to talk about all the things that he did, how he removed the mediums, the witches, the spiritists, all the idols, the mighty ones, all these things of the world, all this mixture. Okay, but it doesn't always speak to, it's not always talking about a little figure, a wood figure. Okay, an idol could be anything that's getting in your relationship with Yahuwah. That's an idol. Okay, it's not just talking about a piece of stone carved out with a fat belly dude. Okay, an idol is anything that you put before Yahuwah. Anything that gets in the way of you keeping his instruction, anything that gets in the way of you doing what he's asked you to do, that's an idol. Okay, so these things he's called us to remove. Let's turn to 2 Chronicles. Okay, and a lot of these first verses are going to be repetitive. Okay, but it's important. Okay. Because I want you to understand, I don't want to see nothing happen to you. You know what I mean? And if you ain't ready, then, hey, then stay home. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm really not trying to be rude. I'm not. I'm being honest with you. I'm really being honest. You know. Okay, we're going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 29. Okay. Now this was another sovereign. Okay? And it says, Hezekiah, chapter 29, verse 1. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abiyah, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his father David did. And in the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Yahuwah and repaired them. And he brought in the Kohen and the Levites and gathered them in the open place to the east. And he said to them, Listen to me, O Levites. Now Kodesh yourselves, Kodesh the house of Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers, and remove the uncleanness from the Kodesh place. For our fathers have trespassed and done evil in the eyes of Yahuwah our Elohim, and have forsaken him, and have turned their faces away from the Mishkan of Yahuwah, and have given their backs. And they shut the doors of the porch, and put out the lamps, and they did not burn incense, and offer burnt offerings in the Kodesh place to the Elohim of Yisra'el. Therefore the wrath of Yahuwah fell upon Yehudah and Jerusalem, and has given them up for trembling, for an astonishment, for hissing, as you see with your eyes. And see, because of this, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity for this. Okay, they were punished for disobeying Yahuwah. It says, Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael, so that in the heat of his wrath turns away from us. My sons, do not be slack, for Yahuwah has chosen you to stand before him and to serve him, and to be attendants for him, and to burn incense. Okay. Now this is speaking of these people here, but he's also chosen us, right? Because he's also began to reveal, however it happened, his name unto us. Okay. So he has an assignment for each one of us. Okay. But what did he tell these people? Whose assignment for? What's the first thing to do? To Kodesh yourself. Set yourself apart. Okay. Make yourself clean. Okay. You think it's by accident? No. Okay. He's revealed to people at different times. Okay. But for whatever reason, he's chose to reveal it to us at this time. Okay. It's an assignment. Okay. It's a job to do. And it's supposed to be serious. It says the warrior, it says the soldier who goes to war is focused on going to war. He's not distracted, right? If I'm over in Iraq or if I'm over in Afghanistan and I'm fighting a war, I'm not going to be distracted, right? We're all going out and we're shooting, and all of a sudden I'm going to put down my gun and, oh man, I'm going to go hit on this girl real quick. Blah, blah, blah. I get killed, right? Because I'm dead. You know what I mean? My focus, so it says the same way with us, is our focus should be on him, should be on what he's asked us to do and the things that he's called us to do, and to the best of our ability, okay, to go for him and to go towards him. Okay, so here it is the same way. He begins a clean house. He begins a clean house. Okay? And he began to set things in place, and he began to put people in their position. Let's go to chapter 30. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that, but you can go back and look at that if you want, and it's pretty much detailed. It's clean a house. Okay? Chapter 30, verse 1. Hezekiah. I like that name. Hezekiah sent to all Yisrael and Yehudah, and he also wrote letters to Ephraim and Manasseh to come to the house of Yahuwah at Jerusalem to perform the Pesach to Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael. Okay? So he called them. He called them to perform the Pesach. Okay, when? After everything was ready and they were prepared. Okay? I mean, we know that atonement is set up for that, but also what he's saying is, this is a set-apart thing. Okay, this is not just something you take lightly. Okay, it's not something to play around with. It's really important. Okay, we're going to look at one more set in same book, Dibri Ha-Yamim, Chronicles 2, chapter 2 Chronicles, chapter 34. Excuse me. Okay, now 34 verse 1. Now here's another. This is one we read about, Yoshiyahu. Yoshiyahu was 8 years old when he began to reign. We're reading from verse 1. And he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, and walked in the ways of his father David, and did not turn aside to the right or to the left. Okay, he was focused. And in the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, he began to seek Elohim, the father of his father David. And in the 12th year, he began to cleanse Yehudah and Jerusalem from the high places, and the ashram, and the carved images, and the molded images. And broke down the altars of Baal in his presence, and the sun pillars which were above, and cut down. And the ashram, and the carved image, and the molded image he destroyed from the ground, and ground them up, and scattered them in the graves of those who had offered to them. And he burnt the bones of the priests in the altars, and cleansed Yehudah and Jerusalem in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Shimon, as far as Naphtali, in their ruins all around. And he broke down the altars of the Asherim, and ground the carved images into dust, and cut through all the sun pillars throughout all the land of Israel, and returned to Jerusalem. And in the 18th year of his reign, when he had cleansed the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Atzaliyahu, and Masayahu, the head of the city, and Joah, the son of Joahaz, the recorder, to repair the house of Yahuwah, his Elohim. Okay? So he began to do the same thing. He began to repair. He began to fix things. Okay? He began to get things in order, to get people to set themselves apart. We're going to read from 23, and we're going to finish that chapter. So they were reading, okay? And it says, and then, thus says Yahuwah, see, I am bringing evil upon this place and on the inhabitants, all the curses that are written in the book, which they have read before the sovereign of Yehudah, because they have forsaken me, and burned incense to other mighty ones, to provoke me in all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath is poured out on this place, and it is not quenched. And the sovereign of Yehudah, so this is talking about the curses that come upon us when we forsake his instruction. Okay? And the sovereign of Yehudah, who went to inquire of Yahuwah, says this to him, thus says Yahuwah Elohim of Yisra'el, those words you have heard, because your heart was tender, and you humbled yourself before Elohim, when you heard the words against the place and against the inhabitants. If you humbled yourself before me, you tore your garments and wept before me. I also have heard, declares Yahuwah. Okay, so there is repentance. Okay, but it's serious repentance. Okay, it's not just, oh man, yeah, sorry about that, or well, I do what I do. Well, don't judge me, because we're not supposed to judge each other. I'm going to show you where it says we can. Okay, before we finish today. Okay, so he's saying here, he had true repentance. Okay, he humbled himself. What did humble himself mean? Okay, humble mean, he means he brought himself low. Okay, he probably fasted. He probably abstained from things that pleasure. He put himself in a place where he was really humble himself, put himself low. You know what I mean? He wept. Okay, serious. Okay, he was bad. He felt guilty. He was upset for what he had did. He was upset at himself. You know what I mean? Verse 28. See, I am gathering you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to the grave in peace, so that your eyes will not see the evil that I bring upon this place and the inhabitants. So they brought back the word to the sovereign. And the sovereign sent and gathered all the elders of Yehudah and Jerusalem. And the sovereign went up to the house of Yahuwah with all the men of Yehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the Kohim and the Levites and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of covenant which had been found in the house of Yahuwah. And the sovereign stood in the place and made a covenant before Yahuwah to follow Yahuwah and to guard his commands and his witness and his laws with all his heart and with all his being, to do so the words of the covenant that were in this book. And he made stand all who were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the Elohim of their fathers. And Yoshiyahu removed all the abominations from all the lands that belonged to the children of Israel, and made all who were present in Israel diligently serve Yahuwah their Elohim. In his days they did not turn away from following Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers. Verse 35. And Yoshiyahu performed the Pesach to Yahuwah in Jerusalem, and they slaughtered the Pesach on the 14th day of the first month. And he appointed the Kohen their duties, and strengthened them in the service of the house of Yahuwah, and said to the Levites who were teaching all Israel who were Kodesh to Yahuwah, to put the Kodesh ark in the house of Yahuwah, which Shlomo son of David, sovereign of Israel, built. So it is no longer to be a burden on your shoulders. Now serve Yahuwah your Elohim and his people Israel, and prepare by the fathers' houses according to your divisions, by the writing of David, sovereign of Israel, and by the writing of Shlomo his son. Verse 5. And stand in the Kodesh place in the divisions of the father's house, your brothers and the lay people, and the portion for the father's house of the Levites. And slaughter the Pesach, and kadosh yourselves, and prepare for your brothers to do according to the word of Yahuwah by the hand of Moshe. So Yoshiyahu gave the lay people lambs and young goats from the flock, all for Pesach, for everyone present, to the number of 30,000, and 3,000 cattle that were from the sovereign's possessions. And the leaders contributed a voluntary offering to the people, to the Kohen, and to the Levites, Hilkiah and Zechariah and Yehiel, the leaders of the house of Elohim, gave to the Kohen for the Pesach 2,600 and 300 cattle. And Conaniah, his brother Shemiyahu, and Nathaniel, and Habyahu, and Yehel, and Zoabad, the chiefs of the Levites, gave to the Levites for Pesach offerings of 5,500 cattle. And the service was prepared, and the Kohen stood in their place, and the Levites in their division, according to the command of the sovereign. And they slaughtered the Pesach, and the Kohen sprinkled out their hands while the Levites were skinning. And they removed the burnt offerings, and gave them to the divisions of the father, houses by the lay people, to bring to Yahuwah, as it is written in the book of Moshe, and same with the cattle. And they roasted the Pesach with fire according to the right ruling, and they boiled the Kodesh offerings in pots and in cauldrons and in bowls, and they brought them speedily to all the lay people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the Kohanim, because the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, were offering burnt offerings and fat until night. So the Levites prepared for themselves and for the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron. And the singers, the son of Asaph, were in place, according to the command of David and Asaph and Heman and Yeduthu, the seer of the sovereign, and the gatekeepers at each gate did not leave their position, because their brothers the Levites prepared for them. And all the service of Yahuwah was prepared that day to perform the Pesach, and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of Yahuwah, according to the command of sovereign Yoshiyahu. And the children of Israel who were present to perform the Pesach at that time, and the festival of Matzah, for 7 days. And there had not been a Pesach performed in Israel like it since the days of Shemuel the Nabi. And the sovereigns of Israel performed the Pesach as Yoshiyahu performed, and the Kohen and the Levites, and all Yehudah and Israel who were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And in the 18th year of the reign of Yoshiyahu, the Pesach was performed. Okay, so they were prepared. They prepared everything, and then they kept the Pesach. Okay, let's turn to Ezra chapter 6, verse 19. And it says, and the sons of exile performed the Pesach on the 14th day of the first month. For the Kohanim and the Levites had cleansed themselves. Okay, so they cleansed themselves. All of them were clean. And they slaughtered the Pesach for all the sons of the exile, and for their brothers, the Kohanim, and for themselves. And the children of Israel who had returned from the exile ate together with all who had separated themselves from the uncleanness of the Gentiles. Okay? So only those that had separated themselves, that were not unclean, okay, they didn't, if they were unclean, if they were in the world, they had no part of it. Okay? Of the land, in order to see Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. Okay? And they performed the festival of Matzah 7 days with joy, and Yahuwah caused them to rejoice. Okay, so now here we're going to explain some of the things. Okay, and we're not going to take the tradition of how other people in the past have kept Pesach according to what people have done for years past, because that don't matter. If it doesn't say it in the Word, it don't count. Okay, that's just their interpretation, but I'm going to stay away from that. Okay, so it says here, one of the things that they did is that they broke bread together. Okay, and another thing they said, they began to rejoice. Okay, and in the one we just read before, it said they got the singers together. Okay, so we can break bread. Okay, we can rejoice and we can sing. Okay, he's called together to be set apart. Okay, basic things. Okay, we're not going to get too wrapped up in stuff that's not there, that we're not supposed to do. Okay, we're just going to keep it real simple. Okay, and we're going to look at how Yahushua preserved it. Okay, and how he preserved it. Okay. Let's turn first to 1 Corinthians. Corinthians Aleph, 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6. It says, your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens a whole lump? Okay, therefore cleanse out the old leaven, that you are a new lump, for you are unleavened. For also the Mashiach, our Messiah, our Pesach, was offered for us. Okay, it says, so then let us observe the festival, and it's crazy. Have we seen that? And they're never. Let us observe the festival not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil or wickedness. Okay, so what? Not with what? Old leaven. Okay, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and in truth. Okay, and we always taught that little part. We didn't keep the feast, but we said, get the leaven out, get the leaven out. Okay, we have messages about that. We remember that. Okay, but what I didn't realize is, let's start from verse 1. There's actually a story going on here. Okay? This was a letter of Shaul to an assembly. Okay? This was a congregation of people. Okay, now we're going to read this because it's really important. Now here's what was happening there. Okay? And it's a specific incident, but it can apply to any incident. Okay? You can take it into any practice of sin. Okay? And here's what he says. This is Shaul. He's right into that assembly. Okay, and he said, it is commonly reported. Okay, so what does that mean? It is being said. Okay, by who? Probably more than one person. Probably even people that don't even know each other or don't even talk to each other. That there is whoring among you. And such whoring that is not even named among Gentiles. That's bad. He said, not even the world does it like that. Okay? So as one to have his father's wife. So what was the incident there? There was a man who was sleeping with his mother-in-law. Okay? And that man was in the assembly. Okay? Now before we always thought, don't judge, that you not be judged, don't say nothing, just leave him alone. Okay? Well, let's see what he says here about what he tells him to do about that. Okay, and like I said, it's not just this incident, it's any incident. Okay? It says, have you not been puffed up and did not rather mourn, so that who has done this deed should be removed from among you? Okay? So what he's saying, he said, why didn't you remove them? So what's wrong with you? Why are you letting that continue to happen in the assembly? And what he was saying is, they were like, oh, just love them. Just love them. Just love them. Let them do it. Just keep loving them. No, it's okay. Okay? But he says, why didn't you remove them? Okay? For this incident. Here's what it says in verse 3. For I indeed, as absent in body, but present in spirit, have already judged this one who did this, as though I were present. Okay? He said, it's already a done deal. In the name of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, when you are gathered together, and my spirit with the power of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, deliver such a one to Satan for destruction of his flesh, in order that his spirit might be saved in the day of the Master Yahushua. Okay? What is he saying? Get him away from you. Okay? Why? What does the word say? Okay? Remember it says it in Hazan? Okay, in Revelation? It says, I would rather you be cold or hot. Because you're lukewarm, I want to vomit you out of my mouth. Okay? Why would he rather somebody be cold than lukewarm? Because somebody cold knows they're screwed up. They have a better chance of getting themselves right than somebody who thinks they're all right, but they're really jacked up. Right? Because they're thinking, oh, I'm okay. Yeah. Right? So if you're hot, you're good. Okay? But if you're lukewarm, he said, that's the worst place to be, because you don't understand that you're not going to make it. Right? A sinner, that's why Yahushua said, I'm going to the people that are sick. Okay? He dealt with the religious people very little. That's what I began to notice. Yeah, he did deal with them from time to time, but they were always accusing me, he's with sinners, he's with sinners. He goes, you guys don't need me. Alright? You got it all figured out. You're not sick. He said, I'm only going to those that are sick. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a physician. You don't need healing. You don't need me. You've already got your own way. Okay? So, now what is he saying here? Deliver this one to Satan for destruction of his flesh. Okay? Put him out. Okay? And do what? Let Satan begin to mess up their life, and maybe they'll get the picture and understand, oh man, let me get back to the Father and do it the right way. You see what I'm saying? So he's saying it's better to let them go out there and suffer in the physical than for them to miss to be with Yahuwah forever. Okay? It says in order that maybe while they're out there, and they're out there doing that they'll get a revelation and understanding before it's too late. You know what I mean? And they'll be able to be saved in that last day. Okay? So he's saying pretty much, get them away from you, deliver them out of there. Okay? It says your boasting is not good. Okay? So they're boasting, the assembly is boasting how good and how good they're doing things, and he's saying, He says your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the entire lump? Okay? And it also means sin, but when I looked up that another definition of that word leaven, you know what it means? Corruption. Right? Corruption. Corrupt what? Corrupting other people. Making other people think it's okay. Making other people think it ain't no big deal. Making other people think, oh, well, he does this and I do this, so he's still coming, so I can still come, so everything's all good. Okay? So he's saying here, it brings corruption to the assembly. The entire assembly brings corruption. Verse 7. Therefore cleanse out the old leaven, so that you are a new lump, okay, as you are unleavened. For also Mashiach, our Pesach, our Passover, was offered for us. So then let us observe the festival not with old leaven, okay, and also another, it says don't receive the leaven of the Pharisees, okay, which is their doctrine, or the way of doing things as well, okay, so it's, that also leaven can mean a little bit of false with the truth. Okay, mixture. So we get rid of that too, but we get rid of the corruption. Okay, we get rid of the sin. Get it out from away from us. Okay, and that's harsh, but that's the only way we're going to be able. We're going to give them a chance that way. Okay, otherwise they have no chance. Okay, and you might think, well, you're not supposed to. We'll keep reading. We'll see where it says it right here. Verse 9. I wrote to you in my letter not to keep company with those who whore. Okay, that's flat out. Okay. Those who whore, who's that? The people that are whoring and cheating on Yahuwah. Just don't keep company with them. That's hardcore, right? But it is what it is, okay? I certainly did not mean with those of the world who whore, with the greedy of gain, or swindlers, or idolaters, since you would need to go out of the world. So he says, I'm not talking about sinners here, okay? I'm not talking about sinners. That doesn't mean you just go run out and start hanging out with sinners. You make sure you know and you're strong enough and Yahuwah is sending you, you know what I mean, if you want to deal with people like that. Okay? But he says, I'm not talking about the world here. Okay, we're to try to minister to the world, help the world. But now I have written to you not to keep company with anyone called a brother or a sister. Okay? If he is one who whores, greedy of gain, an idolater, or reveler, a drunkard, or a swindler, not even to eat with such a one. That's hardcore. But it is what it is, right? Why? because that's going to be their only chance to be saved. Okay? Is for them to be put out, and for them to realize, wow, and maybe for Satan to bring destruction and beat them up a little bit, right? And his whole point is not so they can go to hell. He says maybe they'll get out there and they'll get pounded on enough and they'll realize, you know what? I need to do it the right way. Okay? So he says not with sinners. He said those people who call themselves a brother or sister, okay, and they're doing these things, he said you stay away from them. Okay? Why? They're misrepresenting Yahuwah. They're giving him a bad name. Okay? And you're running with him. So what do they think? Oh, well, he does it, so it's okay. That's okay. And that's what people do. Oh, the people of Yahuwah, yeah, they sleep around. Oh, yeah, they do this. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I heard about him. And they're having lunch together. Oh, yeah, they're cool. Okay. Verse 12. For what have I to do with judging outsiders? Do you not judge those who are inside? Right there. Underline that. Do you not judge those who are inside? But Elohim judges those who are outside. And you put away the wicked one from among you. It says, so in the assembly, we're to judge one another, okay? And we're to put people out, okay? Put them out that are bringing corruption, okay? There's a way to deal with it, you know what I mean? It says in the Word, you know what I mean? But he says here, like right on the top, okay, he says, this has come from a multitude of ways, from a multitude of different people. So it has to be this way, okay? And this all comes with leaven, okay? We're to eat the unleavened bread. So we ain't just like, oh, let me go get all the camel soup with leaven now, and let me give it all my bread and blah. But it is bigger than that. Okay, spiritual. Okay, yes, we're to do the physical thing, but we have to understand the spiritual purpose of it. Okay, we really have to understand that. Okay, so it says to judge. Okay, judge those. Okay, and honestly, I'm too busy. You know what I mean? And I really don't want that responsibility. So what I'm asking you to do is, is you talk to Yahuwah and see what he says. Okay? And you have him deal with you. You know what I mean? As to what you are to do. You know what I mean? And it ain't me. Okay? All I'm trying to do is to protect you to realize that it's a serious thing. Okay? It's not it's not something that we just take real lightly. Okay? It's serious. It can really affect you. Okay? So what I'm saying is, look upon yourself. You know what I mean? Look at yourself and say, "Hey, am I ready? Am I ready for this?" You know what I mean? And if you say, "Hey, I'm practicing sin," or "I'm not ready for it," then don't do it. You know what I mean? He would rather have you. I mean, he don't want you to go through the motions, right? Who was he mad at? The people that worshipped him in vain. People who were singing him. He says, "Your heart is far from me." Right? Remember the guy who goes up to him and he says, I fast 3 times a week and like this, and I'm glad I'm not like that screwed up dude, and he'd whoop and this and that. And he said, who did he receive more? The guy who was crying and so embarrassed he wouldn't even want to get close. He had his head down. Didn't even want to look up, started beating himself, right? Because he was really repentant. And he said, that man had got something today. That other man, he's too puffed up, right? Too prideful. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews 11:23. And it says, by belief, Moshe, having been born, was hidden 3 months by his parents, because they saw he was a comely child, and were not afraid of the sovereign's commands. By belief, Moshe, having become great, refused to be called the son of the daughter of Pharaoh, choosing rather to be afflicted with the people of Elohim than to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a time, deeming the reproach of Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Mitzrayim, for he was looking for his reward. By belief he left Mitzrayim, not fearing the wrath of the sovereign, for he was steadfast, as seeing him who is invisible. By belief he performed the Pesach and the sprinkling of the blood, lest he who destroyed the firstborn should not touch them. Okay? Should touch them, lest he who destroyed the firstborn should touch them. Okay? So he performed the Pesach by belief. Okay? And when he performed the Pesach, guess what? It had never been done before. What does that mean? It had never been done before. Okay? So this is not something we do because people have been doing it before. We say, oh, let's just do it. Yeah, well, why not? Hey, we're supposed to be Yahuwah, and Yahuwah does this, so let's all go and just do it, right? No, they did it by belief. Okay? When Noah, okay? When he had to build the ark, right? It never rained before. He did it by belief. He did it by belief in Yahuwah. Okay? So you have to believe Yahuwah. Okay? You have to have belief in you. You have to believe Him. Okay? You have to understand. It's not just, let's just jump on board because everybody's doing it. Okay? And it's not just jump on board and do it the way everybody else does it. Okay? Let's turn to Lucas chapter 22. We're going to read verse 1 through 23. It says, "In the festival of Matzah, which is unleavened bread, drew near, which is called Pesach. And the chief Kohanim and the scribes were seeking how to kill him, for they feared the people. And Satan had entered into Yehuda, who was called of Kiroth, who was numbered among the 12. And he went and spoke with the chief Kohanim and the captains, how he might deliver him up to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him silver, and he had promised and was seeking an occasion to deliver him up away from the crowd. And the day of Matzah came when the Pesach had to be slaughtered. And he sent Kepha and Yochanan, saying, Go and prepare the Pesach for us to eat. And they said to him, Where do you want us to prepare it? And he said, See, as you enter into the city, a man shall meet you, carrying a jar of water. Follow him, enter the house he enters, and say to the master of the house, and you shall say to the master of the house, The teacher says to you, Where is the guest room where I might eat the Pesach with my Talmudim, or taught ones? And he showed them a large furnished upper room. Prepare it there. And going out, they found it as he had said to them, and they prepared the Pesach. And when the hour had come, he sat down with the 12 missionaries with him. Okay, 12 people. Okay, did he bring every single person that he had spoken to all over? No, this was set apart. Okay, set apart. So he had those close to him set apart. And he said to them, with desire I have desired to eat the Pesach with you before my suffering. For I say to you, I shall certainly not eat of it again until it is fulfilled in the reign of Elohim. And taking the cup after giving thanks, he said, Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of the fruit of the vine until the reign of Elohim comes. And taking bread, he gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body, which was given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise, the cup also after supper, saying, This cup is the renewed covenant in my blood, which was shed for you. Okay. But see, the hand of him delivering me up is with me on the table. For indeed, the bin of Adam goes as it has been decreed, but woe to that man by whom he is delivered up. And they began to ask among themselves which of them could be the one who was about to do this. And they all disputed amongst each other as to which one of them seemed greater. And he said to them, The sovereigns of the Gentiles rule over them, but those who control them are called workers of good. So we're going to stop there. So we see that they went into the room, okay, and they kept the Pesach, okay. And see, here's the thing, that Yahushua did nothing like anybody else. Okay, he did it according to the word. Okay, he came, and the Sadducees and the Pharisees were doing things, and he came and did it completely different than them. Okay, even the Pesach. Okay, I have a hard time following the way that the Judaism or the Yahudim keep the Pesach because they don't believe in the Mashiach. Right? They don't. So how can I do anything that they do if they don't believe in Him? It is completely different. Okay, it is completely set apart. Okay, and they sit there and they use an egg. Well, where is it? Where is it? To me, an egg is close to Easter. You know what I mean? There's nowhere where it says for us to use candles. Okay, the Catholics use candles. It doesn't say that. Okay, so it's hard for me to take anything that they do and apply it if it doesn't say it in here, because they didn't believe in the Mashiach. They didn't believe in the Messiah. Okay, so there's no way that I can do that. Okay, there's no way that we're supposed to do that, because it says remove the leaven. Okay, don't do it the old way. Don't do it the way everybody else, and get away from that. Okay, let's turn to Galatians, and this is a powerful scripture. Okay. And when somebody showed me this, it really kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow. Galatians, or Galatium chapter 4, verse 22. So did Yahuwah accept what we did last year? Yeah, because we were trying. Okay, we were doing it, but now he's saying, okay, now I want you to grow up and get a little, you know what I mean? Last year we invited everybody. We didn't know any better. We thought, hey, whoever wants to come out, you know what I mean? But it was a zeal. But he understood what we were trying to do. He understood that, okay? And now he's saying, okay, now I want you to begin to set it apart, okay? And I want you to begin to do it differently, okay? So in Galatians, or Galatians chapter 4, verse 22, it says, for it has been written that Abraham had two sons, one by a female servant and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the female servant was born according to the flesh, but he of the free woman through promise. This is allegorical, for these are the two covenants, one indeed from Mount Sinai, which brings forth slavery, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, which corresponds to Jerusalem, listen to that, which now is, and is in slavery with her children. Okay? But the Jerusalem above is free, which is the mother of us all. The Jerusalem above, which is coming down. Okay? And the other scripture says, Yahuwah says, I'm done with them, and I'm done with that city. Okay? That Jerusalem is not Yahuwah's. Because it says Yahuwah has nothing to do with darkness. Is there going to be a Muslim temple in Yahuwah's land? That is not his. Okay, it's done away with. Okay, so to the best of our ability, according to the feast and everything else, we keep time according to where we are, because he said that is not mine, because I am set apart. And if there is all kinds of mixture there, then that's me. He's already said he's removed his name from that place. So it says we are from the free woman. We're from the promise, right? From Yahushua. Okay, so it says our Jerusalem is above. Our Jerusalem is to come. Okay, so it's important for us, you know. It's important. Some people know that, but other people don't. Some people just get excited and say, "I want to go to Jerusalem." You know, some people are called there, okay, and they're called there for a purpose. Some people just say, "I want to go there," but you got to be careful, because if he hasn't called you to go there, okay, it's a problem. But if he's called you to go there, you're fine, because it'd just be like me going to South America or me going somewhere else. If he's called you to be there and to be in that place, you got to be spiritually strong, okay, to be called to that place, because that place is bad, okay, with religion and with stuff like that. It's really mixed up, okay. So our Jerusalem is from above, okay, because it was bringing a lot of confusion to me. Like, man, do I do it when they see the moon over there, but when they see the moon over here, it's day and this and that, and how am I gonna do it from here and there? And then he showed me. He says, that's not mine anymore. Okay, when mine comes, okay, so to the best of our ability, we try to keep everything, and we try to keep the feast according to the time, okay, and according to what he's called us to do. Okay, so we've read, and let's go over a couple more. Couple things that he's had us to do. Let's go to Shemoth. We've been going back to this scripture quite a bit. Exodus chapter 12, okay, verse 15. It says, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you shall cause leaven to cease from your houses. Whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that being shall be cut off from Yisrael. Okay. Now, here's another which I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I would tend to shy away from it. You know, and it talks about the fruit of the vine when he says about the cup. When you look up the word leaven, it means fermented. Okay, and you have to ferment wine. So I don't necessarily know if it should be actual wine like that. You know what I mean? Intoxicating wine. because there's two words for wine. One of them means squeezed from the grape, and the other one means fermented. Okay, when you look up the word leaven, leaven also means talking about bread, but it means a fermentation. So I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I don't know. To me, I would kind of play the safe side and do just the grape juice. You know what I mean? Because some people believe that you take a little sip of wine, but when you look up the word leaven, you'll see fermentation there. So and that's what wine does. It ferments. So you have to be careful there. So it just says for us to eat unleavened bread. Okay. From the first day to the seventh day. What's unleavened bread? Just tortillas with no lard. Okay, flour, water, and a little bit of olive oil. Okay? It doesn't have to be a certain shape. It doesn't have to be a certain style. Okay, make sure the flour doesn't have no yeast in it. You know what I mean? Just regular flour, water, and oil. Yeah, it's a flatbread. Okay, that's all it is. Okay, and if you buy some, just make sure it doesn't have that L-cysteine in it, which is horsehair or human hair that they shoot in a. There's a list that we have that we could show you later that they use to preserve the tortillas. Oh, 16. Let's look at that. It says, from the first day is a Kodesh gathering, and the seventh day is a Kodesh gathering. Do no work on them, only that which is eaten by every being, that alone being prepared by you. Okay, so it's a Shabbat, but we're able to cook. Okay, we're in chapter 12, verse 16. We're allowed to cook. It's a celebration. Like we said, we break bread together. We worship together, which we've seen them singing. Okay, so these are all things we're pulling straight out of the Word. Say, you shall guard the matzah on the same day which I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this throughout your generations, an everlasting law. On the 14th day of the first month in the evening you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the first month. No leaven is to be found in your houses. Anyone who eats leaven, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native in the land. Okay, let's look at verse 24. It says, and it shall be when you come to the land which Yahuwah gives you as a promise, that you shall guard this service. Verse 26. And it shall be when your children say to you, what does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, it is the Pesach slaughtering of Yahuwah, who passed over the houses of the children of Yisrael in Mitzrayim, and he smote the Mitzrites and delivered our households, and the people bowed their heads and did obeisance or worship. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there because that's an important thing. Okay, it says, what happens when the children ask you what that is? And he says, you explain to them that is the Pesach of Yahuwah, and it was when the children of Israel were freed from Mitzrayim. Well, how do we explain that to them? With this. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're just going to go in, we're going to open up the Word, okay, and we're going to go over exactly and explain according to Scripture. We're going to read the Scripture, okay, on the Pesach. So we're going to gather together because it says the children are coming to say, well, what are we doing this for? Okay, so we're going to go through this week, and we're going to go through and we're going to mark the whole story, okay, in different parts, and maybe in other parts where it pertains to it. Then we're going to come up and we're going to take turns reading that. Okay? And that's how we're going to keep it. Okay? It doesn't say nothing else. It doesn't say we're commanded to do anything else besides break bread. We're commanded to gather together. Okay? We're to eat unleavened bread. So, and we're to share the story of what happened. Because it says it's a memorial, a remembrance. Okay? It's to remind us of them being free, to remind us that we could be free, to remind us that we're set free, that we don't need to go back to them things. Okay, we don't need to go back to the things in the way the world does. Okay, verse 42. This is our last set right here, these 7 scriptures. It says, it is a night, Shema chapter 12, verse 42. It is a night to be observed unto Yahuwah for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This night is unto Yahuwah to be observed by all the children of Yisrael throughout their generation. Okay, children. Okay, you have to be a child of Yisrael. Okay, what does that mean? I'm grafted into the house of Yahuwah. By who? By the blood of Mashiach, Yahushua. Okay, so how do I know that I'm grafted in? Because I keep my Father's commands. All right, I keep my Father's instructions. If I don't keep my Father's instructions, I'm not grafted in. If I'm not grafted in, then I'm not a children of Israel. I'm not one of His children. Okay? Only if I'm grafted in, only if I'm received the Messiah. How do I know I received the Messiah? by obeying Yahuwah's commands. Okay? Otherwise, it's not speaking to me. Okay? I'm like a Gentile. So, it says, and Yahuwah said to Moshe and to Aaron, this is the law of Pesach. No son of a stranger is to eat of it. But any servant a man has bought with silver, when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. Okay? A sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. Okay? Not allowed to. Who is that? Anybody that doesn't believe in Yahuwah, okay, is not allowed to partake of the Pesach. Okay? And even remember when Eliyahu, remember when he says, who are you going to serve? You're going to serve, choose this day, right? Who are you going to serve? You're going to serve Lord? Or are you going to serve Yahuwah? Right? This is a feast to Yahuwah. Right? It's a set apart feast. It's not a time to bring people that still believe in Lord. Right? There's other time to do that. Right? Because if we bring them, what are they going to think? Oh, it don't matter what I call him and what I say. It's all the same. We're talking about the same person. No, we're not. No, we're not. Okay? And it's not. It is what it is. Set apart. That's what he's called us to be. Okay? It's not like what I'm making up. It's what it says here. He says, these people this is not the time. Okay? There's plenty of other days you can invite them over to your house and have dinner and share with them all this stuff. But this is for set apart. Okay? In verse 48, it said, when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Pesach to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, then let them come near to perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. Okay, now why does it say the men only need to be circumcised? Because if it was the way it's supposed to be back here, men are in charge of the house. Men take responsibility. Okay, men do what men need to do. Okay, men are the ones who say, you know what, we're going to read together as a family. Okay, we're going to turn off the TV and we're going to read the Word. Okay, and everybody's going to come who's in my house. Why? I'm a man, that's my house. Okay, it's not, oh, well, my son don't want to do it or my daughter don't want to do it, then you better get up and get out of my house. Right? The man of the house is supposed to have responsibility. So it says if the men are circumcised and they're doing their job, then that means all their family, their wife and the children are going to be in their place and everything's going to be okay. Okay? If the man is circumcised of the heart, okay? If the man is spiritually right before Yahuwah, then he's going to be in charge of his house and he's going to be able to get his house right. Okay? So the men were called to be the leaders. Okay? Okay? So this is what he's called us to do. We'd like to dismiss you and thank you for tuning in. If you're watching by CD or DVD or stream, you can get a hold of us. Eagles Haven Ministry, if you want to look up our archives and past videos, and we thank you for listening. Hopefully Yahuwah will continue to bring revelation according to his feast and his days. Hallelujah.